My family always insisted I was too sensitive right up until the sheriff stepped onto their porch holding documents with my name on them. No shouting, no dramatic chaos, just a quiet, devastating crack in their world as they stared at me like I had rewritten the rules overnight. I didn't argue. I didn't soothe them. I simply stepped aside and let reality hit them. Because 1 week earlier, at the Denver airport, I discovered exactly what my parents truly thought of me. 1 canceled ticket, 2 cruel text messages, and with just a glance at my phone, the foundation of our family shifted forever. Before we continue, hit like and tell me where you're listening from, and if your family has ever pushed you to your breaking point. Share your story below. None of us walked through this alone. If you met me a few years ago, you might have assumed I grew up in one of those warm, chaotic households that filled diner booths every Sunday morning. People always told me I had a gentle face, the kind that must have been raised with affection. I never corrected them. It was easier than admitting the truth. My family cherished control far more than they ever cherished me. Growing up, my mother treated my older sister like a limited edition trophy. She received new clothes, a perfectly decorated bedroom, framed photos lining every hallway. Meanwhile, I received hand-me-downs, lectures about gratitude, and during holidays, a spot on the floor because chairs are for guests. My father wasn't the one who lit the match, but he always stood close enough to enjoy the flames, smirks, shrugs, pretending not to hear the comments that cut the deepest. That was how he chose his allegiance. By the time I left for college, I had been kicked out twice. Once for speaking up, once because Leah didn't want to share the bathroom. Dinner winters hit differently when you're 17, standing outside with a trash bag full of clothes. But surviving that taught me something powerful. If I wanted stability, I would have to create it myself. So I did. Quietly, relentlessly, I worked through school, took every internship others rejected, and studied financial planning in a dim library that smelled like old carpet and burnt microwave popcorn. Years later, when I moved into my modest condo overlooking the lake, it wasn't luxurious, but it was mine. The concierge knew my name. My soft-spoken 6-year-old son finally had a room where no one told him to stay out of the way. He is the only human being who has never made me feel like I take up too much space. My parents never understood that my distance wasn't rebellion. It was self-preservation. Even after I built a career, but a home, and created a peaceful life from nothing, they still treated me like the backup child. Leah remained the gold and daughter, the perfect marriage, the curated photos, the family who bent over backwards to keep her pedestal polished. So when I saved up for a short trip, a small vacation I had rightfully earned, I didn't tell anyone. But secrets in my family never last. And the moment my mother discovered I was leaving town, everything began to unravel. The airport morning of my trip felt strangely calm, the kind of quiet that makes you believe the universe might finally be giving you a little mercy. I left early, kissed my son goodbye, told him I'd bring back something from the airport gift shop. Denver International buzzed with its usual mix of rolling suitcases, coffee steam, and half-awake travelers. Nothing about me stood out. Jeans, a long coat, hair pulled back. But within minutes, everything I believed about my family would crack open. At the check-in counter, the agent scanned my ticket once, twice, and her expression shifted. "Your ticket shows as canceled," she said softly. "The refund was processed an hour ago to a card ending in 4,401. My stomach dropped out. For a one belonged to one person. My mother. Barely a moment later, my phone vibrated. Mom. Have fun walking home. Loser. Another buzz. Dad. To broke. Take a bus like you deserve. The terminal seemed to blur around me. It wasn't the canceled ticket. It wasn't even the insults. It was the realization, sharp and cold, that my parents didn't just belittle me. They enjoyed it outside the airport. As I waited for a rideshare, an older driver named Harvey pulled up and asked if I was okay. I wasn't, but he listened for the first time in years. I said everything out loud. The canceled ticket, the cruelty, the years I swallowed every insult. When he dropped me off, something inside me had shifted. Not rage. Precision. The folder called Options Back Home. I opened a folder on my laptop I'd kept buried for years. Options. Investment records. Property payments. The trust deed. The house my parents lived in for 2 years belonged to me. They had no idea. They assumed my quiet life meant small life. They assumed my old car meant struggle. They never imagined I kept my success private to protect it from them. But now I had clarity, and clarity is a dangerous thing. I drafted 3 eviction notices, 1 for each adult living there. Then I played a recording I'd captured by accident the last time I visited. My mother's voice. Cancel it. Teach her a lesson. My father. She can take the bus. She exaggerates everything anyway. Their laughter, and in that moment, my anger didn't burn. It crystallized. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to match their cruelty. I was going to use the very thing they underestimated most. Preparation. The confrontation 3 days later. I walked into the house I once tiptoed through. My mother on the couch. My father making a sandwich. Leah filing her nails like royalty. The moment I placed the envelope on the counter, Leah scoffed. What's that? Your notice, I said. All of yours? They laughed. Until I showed them the deed. Until I played the recording. Until their own words echoed through the kitchen. The room went still. My father whispered, "You can't evict your own family. You already dead," I said, twice before I turned 20. Panic replaced arrogance. Excuses replaced laughter. But it didn't matter. I handed them the final paper. The enforcement document already filed. They had 3 days. The sheriff arrives. When the sheriff arrived 3 days later, my parents stood on the porch with half-packed boxes. Their faces stunned, not with sorrow, but disbelief. They never expected consequences. My mother reached for my arm. "Lucia, we're still your parents." I stepped back, and I'm still the daughter you never protected. Everything they had taken for granted now slipped out the front door with their belongings. Before I left, I placed a photo inside the empty house, me and my son smiling, with one sentence written on the back, "This is the family I choose." The evening, when I returned to my condo, the lake outside was still and silver, peaceful in a way I hadn't felt in years. My son ran into my arms, warm and certain. And for the first time in my life, that was enough. For the first time in years, the silence in my condo felt peaceful rather than heavy. No buzzing insults, no guilt-laced demands, no sudden family emergencies disguised as emotional blackmail. Just me and my son, eating breakfast at our small wooden table, sunlight warming the floor. He swung his legs under the chair and asked, "Mom, are you happier now?" The question nearly cracked something tender in me. "I am," I whispered, and for once, it wasn't a lie. But peace doesn't stay quiet forever. 2 days after the eviction, I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Unknown, you destroyed us. Hope you're proud. It didn't take much guessing. My father's rhythm, my mother's bitterness, Leah's entitlement. They all wrote the same way." I blocked the number. 10 minutes later, another message came. "Leah, Mom's crying. Dad's furious. They're saying you planned this for years." I didn't respond, because I had planned something for years, my freedom. The manipulation returns the evening. The building concierge buzzed me. "There's a woman downstairs asking for you. Says it's an emergency." My heart dropped, but not from fear, from recognition. I rode the elevator down slowly, bracing myself. When the doors opened, my mother stood in the lobby holding a grocery bag like it was some kind of peace offering. Her eyes were red, not from regret, but from panic. "Lucia, please," she whispered. "We need to talk." I didn't invite her in. I stayed where I was, near the elevator, my arms crossed. She lifted the bag slightly. "I brought food. I don't need anything from you." Her lip trembled, but her voice hardened, familiar as an old bruise. "Your father's angry. Leah's upset. You've embarrassed us." I enforced a legal eviction, I said. "If that embarrasses you, that's your mirror to face." Her jaw tightened. "Don't talk to me like you're above us." I almost laughed. Above you? No. But separate from you? Yes. She swallowed, searching my face for the version of me she could still manipulate. Finally, she asked the question she'd rehearsed. Can we come stay with you? Just for a few days? My answer was immediate, clean, final, no. Her face flushed red. She looked around the lobby as if expecting someone to defend her. You're heartless, she hissed. No, I said. I'm healed. I pressed the elevator button and stepped back inside. The door slid shut on her shocked expression, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. The night everything shifted again later that night. After my son fell asleep, I stepped onto my balcony overlooking the quiet lake. The air smelled like cold water and pine, a calm I'd never known. But peace is often the moment before change. My phone buzzed. A new email from the sheriff's office. Subject line, property update. Urgent notice. My heartbeat kicked harder. I opened it, and the message was short. We found unexpected items left behind in your property. You should come in person. Items left behind. By who? My hands tightened around the phone. Whatever my family left in that house, whatever they thought would stay hidden, was waiting for me. And something about the sheriff's tone told me. The evening shadow slowly stretched across the quiet house as I sat alone, staring at the same note that shattered my world. The words felt like fire every time I read them. We used your $8,500 for the family cruise. Take care of Grandma. I clenched the paper in my fist. My voice trembled as I whispered, why? Why would my own family do this to me? Grandma slowly walked into the room, her footsteps light, but filled with years of wisdom. She looked at me with worried eyes. My child, you look broken. Tell me what happened. I took a deep breath and handed her the note. She adjusted her glasses and read it carefully. Her hands began to shake. They took your money, the one you saved for years, and they left you to look after me, alone. I nodded, fighting back tears. I don't understand, Grandma. I helped them in everything. I worked overtime. I skipped meals. I saved every coin, and they just walked away. Grandma gently held my hand. My dear, sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest. But remember, your worth is bigger than their betrayal. Her words warmed my heart just a little, but inside, a storm was growing. Not anger, not revenge, clarity. For the first time, I could truly see what kind of people they were. Family in name, but strangers in reality. I stood up, wiped my tears, and looked around the silent home. Everything felt different now, like the walls were whispering painful truths. Grandma asked softly, what are you going to do now? I looked out the window at the darkening sky. I don't know yet, but I'm done being the one they step on. This time, Grandma, I'll rebuild my life. Not for them, not for forgiveness. For me, and with that, part of my heart broke. But another part awakened stronger, sharper, and finally ready to rise. The next morning arrived with a silence that felt heavier than the night before. I woke up early not because I slept well, but because my mind refused to rest. The betrayal kept replaying like a broken movie in my head. I stepped into the kitchen where Grandma was already awake, boiling tea. Her eyes followed me full of concern, full of unspoken fear. You didn't sleep, did you? She asked quietly. I shook my head. How can I sleep, Grandma? They spent the money I saved for 3 years. Money I earned with sweat, sacrifice, and pain. And they didn't even apologize. Grandma poured tea into 2 cups and sat beside me. Her voice was soft but firm. My child, betrayal changes a person. It shows you reality, but don't let it turn you into someone you are not. But I couldn't stop thinking. Every overtime shift, every night I skipped dinner to save money, every dream I put on hold, all gone, used for their enjoyment. I felt something inside me break. Not anger, resolve. I took a deep breath and stood up. I'm going to talk to them, Grandma. Her eyes widened with worry. Are you sure? They may not understand. They may even blame you. I'm done being silent, I whispered. For once, they will hear me. Hours later, I drove to Mom and Dad's house. The road looked the same, but I didn't feel like the same person anymore. I parked the car and sat for a moment, breathing slowly. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from the weight of everything I'd held inside for years. When I walked in, they were sitting comfortably in the living room, scrolling through their phones like nothing had happened. Dad looked up. "Oh, you came. Did you feed Grandma? Feed Grandma. Feed Grandma." They spoke as if I were just their helper, not their child. I swallowed hard. "Dad, Mom, we need to talk." Mom sighed like she was already annoyed. "About what now?" I pulled out the note they left on the kitchen table. They didn't look ashamed. They didn't even look guilty. Mom simply shrugged. "We deserved a break. You're young, you'll make the money again." I felt my heart freeze. Dad added, "And taking care of Grandma is your responsibility anyway. We're tired." My voice cracked. "You used my life savings without asking and left me alone with Grandma as if she's a burden." Mom raised her eyebrows. "Don't talk like that. Family sacrifices for each other." I looked at them, at their relaxed smiles, their careless expressions, their complete lack of remorse. In that moment, something inside me changed forever. I finally saw them for who they truly were. Not caretakers, not protectors, but people who took advantage of the one person who never said no. I exhaled slowly and said words I never imagined I'd say. "Family doesn't mean using each other, and I won't let you use me anymore." They laughed softly, mockingly. Mom waved her hand. "You're being dramatic." But I wasn't listening anymore. A cold calmness spread through me. I stepped back toward the door. "This was your last betrayal," I said quietly. "I'm done." And before they could respond, I walked out, not with anger, but with a clarity that shook my soul. Behind me, the door closed. But in front of me, a new life was beginning. A life where I would rise without them. The drive back home felt like moving through a different world. A world where the people I trusted most, the people who raised me, had turned into strangers. But as I walked into the house, Grandma looked up from her chair. Her warm eyes searched my face, and she knew instantly. They didn't understand, did they? I shook my head, sitting beside her. They didn't even care, Grandma. They acted like I owed them everything, like my savings, my dreams, my hard work were just theirs to take. She placed her fragile hand on mine. "My child, listen to me. Some people mistake love for convenience. They love you as long as you make life easier for them." Her words hit deep, too deep. For years, I thought loyalty meant staying silent. I thought helping family meant losing myself. But now I knew I was wrong, and something in me began to grow. Not hatred, but purpose. I stood up slowly. "Grandma, I need to change things. I can't live like this anymore." She smiled gently. "I've been waiting for you to say that." The next few days were different. I woke up early, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I took out a notebook and wrote everything I wanted to rebuild. A better job, a savings plan, a place of my own, a life built on respect. A future that wasn't controlled by selfish people. For the first time in years, I felt direction. I felt power. I felt like my life belonged to me again. But it wasn't easy. My phone buzzed constantly. Mom, Dad, Uncle, even cousins, message after message. "You're overreacting. Come back home. Family is family. You should apologize." Apologize? For what? For wanting a life that was mine. For refusing to be used anymore. I muted every chat. Silence never felt so peaceful. One evening, as I helped Grandma prepare dinner, she looked at me with soft pride. "You're different now," she said. "Stronger and calmer." I nodded. "I think I'm finally learning to choose myself." She chuckled. "It's about time." We both laughed, a soft, healing sound. But deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. That night, something happened. As I sat by the window, watching the quiet street, I made a promise to myself. I won't just heal, I'll grow. I won't just survive, I'll succeed. And one day, if they look back, they'll see what they lost. No revenge, no hate. Just growth so powerful that it becomes the loudest answer. For the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully because I knew the new chapter had begun. Morning sunlight slipped through the curtains and landed across my room, but for the first time in months, I didn't wake up with heaviness. I woke up with purpose. I stood in front of the mirror, looking at someone I hadn't seen in a long time. Someone confident, someone brave, someone no longer willing to be stepped on. I whispered to myself, this is my life now, my turn to rise. That day, I took the biggest step forward. I opened my laptop and started applying for better jobs. Not the ones I felt stuck in, but the ones I deserved. Cleaner offices, higher pay, respect, a future. Every application felt like another piece of my broken heart being rebuilt. Grandma peeked into the room with a proud smile. So, what are we working on today? I laughed softly. Everything I never had the courage to chase before. She nodded. That's my child. Her support felt like arm around my soul. Days passed, and something unexpected happened. My confidence started to glow. Not loudly, but clearly. I started talking differently, walking differently, thinking differently. Even Grandma noticed. You carry yourself like someone who knows their worth now, she said. And she was right. Then the calls from my family changed. At first, they were demanding, come back, stop being immature. Then they became defensive. You misunderstood us. We didn't mean it that way. Then finally, they turned desperate. We need your help, please. Talk to us. Funny how people ignore your sacrifices for years, but notice your absence in seconds. But I didn't answer. Not yet. Not until I healed. I chose silence. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. One evening, I found Grandma sitting quietly in the lounge. She looked thoughtful. Child, she said softly, you're growing beautifully, but the ones who hurt you will try to break that growth. Be strong. Don't let their guilt pull you back. I sat beside her. I'm scared, Grandma, not of them, but of falling back into the same cycle. She held my hand tightly. Then don't go back. You don't owe anyone your pain. Her words echoed in my heart. Loud, clear, life-changing. That night, as I stood on the balcony, the cool breeze brushed against my face. The world felt big again, full of possibilities. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of the future. I was ready for it. I whispered into the night, I'm not the same person anymore, and I'll never be that person again. And with that, my new life truly began. Weeks passed, quietly, peacefully, differently. The house felt lighter. Grandma's smile grew brighter, and inside me, something strong had taken root. A strength built from heartbreak, betrayal, and rebirth. I had rebuilt my routine. I had rebuilt my confidence. And slowly, I was rebuilding my life. One morning, as I was preparing breakfast, my phone buzzed again. Another message, but this time not from Mom or Dad. It was from a company I had applied to weeks ago. Congratulations. We would like to offer you the position. My breath caught in my chest. I read it twice, 3 times. Then I laughed, a real loud, relieved laugh. Grandma, I shouted. She hurried in, worried. What happened? I held up the phone. I got the job. Her eyes sparkled with tears. Oh, my child, you deserve every bit of this. She hugged me tightly, and in that moment, I realized something important. The universe wasn't punishing me. It was guiding me away from the wrong people and toward the right future. Days later, something unexpected happened. My parents showed up at my doorstep. No call, no warning, just guilt on their faces and excuses on their lips. Mom spoke first. We heard you got a new job. Dad added softly, we're proud of you. I said nothing. I just looked at them, really looked. For the first time, I saw fear in their eyes. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing control. Mom stepped closer. We made mistakes. Maybe we were selfish, but we're family. Can't you give us another chance? I took a long breath. A deep one filled with everything I had learned, everything I had survived. Mom, Dad, I said gently, I forgave you, not for you, but for my peace. Their eyes widened with hope. But I continued. But forgiveness doesn't mean I go back to the person you used to take advantage of. I'm not that person anymore. Silence filled the air. Heavy, real. Dad whispered. So, that's it. I nodded. Yes. I wish you well, but I'm choosing myself now. They looked defeated, but deep inside, I finally felt free. They turned and walked away slowly. No anger, no shouting, just the quiet end of a chapter that should have ended long ago. That night, I sat with Grandma on the balcony. The stars were bright, brighter than I had ever seen them. She took my hand. You did the hardest thing a person can do. You chose your peace over your past. I looked up at the sky and exhaled. For the first time, Grandma, I feel like I'm finally living my life, not surviving it. She smiled proudly. And that is your victory. And that was it. The end of a painful chapter, the start of a powerful life. A life where I walked forward, not carrying the weight of those who broke me, but carrying the strength I built from the pieces. A life where I rose from betrayal and turned it into transformation. A life where, in the end, I found myself. The end.